I've got another string of wonderful Floridaman news from the magical kingdom itself. I dedicate this episode to my son, who introduced me to the wonderful world of Floridaman. So let's dive into it, and here we go. Floridaman was arrested for hanging on traffic lights and pooping on cars. A Florida man was recently apprehended after he reportedly climbed a Miami traffic light, removed his pants, and defecated on cars passing below. Both police and fire department were called to the scene. They used a ladder to bring the man down. The authorities state that the man was high on crystal meth and marijuana. A Florida man was arrested for groping multiple Disney characters at Walt Disney World. A 51-year-old Florida man was arrested for groping the Little Mermaid, and this wasn't his first inappropriate touching. In December, the park had several incidents with the cast members, including separate groping incidents involving Minnie Mouse and even Donald Duck. This is not only by the Florida man, but also by various park visitors as well. A naked Florida man steals a car from a valet and led the police on a chase. The police were recently called to a Florida hotel after a naked man was harassing people, before eventually approaching a valet, wresting keys away from him, and attempting to steal a car. The Florida man was able to drive off and led the police on a chase, before eventually being apprehended and taken to the hospital. Authorities say that the man was probably under the influence. A viral video on TikTok showed 3 men playing cards at a Florida traffic light. A video surfaced of 3 men playing cards seated at a folding table, waiting for a traffic light to change at a Florida intersection. The caption stated, "Florida, back at it with the long lights." The video had more than 1 million likes and thousands of comments. A 23-year-old Florida man is wanted for suspicion of attacking 2 men at a McDonald's. This was after he became enraged because they complimented his Batman jacket. According to the affidavit, 2 men, aged 59 and 63, were at the restaurant, and they told the Florida man that they liked his black and yellow jacket, which happened to have the Batman logo on it. The men then said the Florida man became irate, flipping them off and yelling obscenities at them. The duo said they ignored him. The man then left the restaurant, but they decided to record this event. One man, concerned that he was near his vehicle, told Florida man that he was calling 911. That prompted him to retrieve a baseball bat from his 95 GMC Yukon. He swung the bat at the men, nearly missing them. He drove off and threw a nickel at them, striking the 63-year-old in the forehead, causing an abrasion. The deputies were able to identify him by his vehicle and a photo lineup. A Florida man broke into the home of a woman that he was stalking. Then he stripped naked in front of the victim's husband while he's being held at gunpoint. Deputies say around 3:15 a.m. on a Friday, they arrived at the victim's house. They found the Florida man naked in the living room, with the male resident holding him at gunpoint. He fought the deputies, so a taser was used on him. He was bitten by a canine multiple times before he was finally taken into custody. The victims, a married couple, said he began making inappropriate comments on the woman's social media accounts. This was back several years ago, and since then, he had delivered a stove to the victim's house. Thursday, he tried twice to break into the victim's home. Deputies said during the most recent incident, the husband heard the sliding glass door break, and he confronted the Florida man with a shotgun. The 2 men struggled with the gun before it went off. The victim then used it to hit him in the head. The man then grabbed a pistol and held the Florida man at gunpoint. At this point, the Florida man stripped naked and repeatedly mumbled to himself the woman's name. Deputies said they found his bike nearby, as well as a bottle of soda, chips, and lotion near the master bedroom. A Florida man that was arrested for DUI said that he was smoking THC to prepare for Jesus' return. An officer approached a man that was sitting in the driver's seat of a parked vehicle. The interior smelled like booze. Half a bottle of cognac was in the passenger seat, and a cup full of alcoholic beverage in a cup holder. He asked the man for his driver's license, and the Florida man handed over his vape pen. He said it contained THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana. He agreed to perform the field sobriety exercises, but at one point during the task, he crouched down and fiddled with the screws of the deputy's license plate. He then turned and gestured with the peace sign. He also said that he smoked the THC because he was getting himself ready because Jesus was returning. The breathalyzer test measured his blood alcohol content well over double the legal limit. A Florida man sets his hospital bed ablaze to get the nurse's attention. A 75-year-old Florida man admitted to the police that he used a Bic lighter to ignite a plastic bag, this also being in a shared room. He did this because he felt the staffers were ignoring his request. The Florida man's roommate told officials that he spotted him with a small object on fire. He finally convinced him to extinguish the flames. He then reignited the blaze, prompting the roommate to use the emergency button to call for help. The nurse used the fire extinguisher to put out the flame, while the Florida man tried to use the elevator to escape. They managed to stop him until the firefighters arrived. The Florida man later handed over the lighter, but not before causing $4,000 worth of damage. He was charged with a second-degree felony of arson. His 84-year-old roommate was heard shouting at the nurse, "This mother here has lit his bed on fire. I can't breathe. There's smoke in the room." A Florida man was standing naked in his driveway, throwing rocks at passing cars. The deputy was called out to a suburb on a Tuesday. That is where they found the 34-year-old Florida man standing completely nude in his driveway. The deputy said they had multiple witnesses that saw the Florida man throwing rocks and hitting cars. He was later charged with indecent exposure. A Florida man was arrested for allegedly sexually assaulting a stuffed Olaf at a Target. The Florida man was accused of placing a popular snowman on the floor, dry humping it until he let it go. This happening around 2 p.m. He then proceeded to take a stuffed unicorn from the store and allegedly start dry humping it before the cops arrived. Cops said that he admitted to the dirty deed, and he was later charged with criminal mischief, and the stuffed animals had to be destroyed. The Florida man's father admitted that his son was known for this kind of behavior. A Florida man winds up on a roof in his underwear with no memory of how he got there. A family woke up one night to a man sitting on the roof in nothing but his underwear. They said they'd like to know how he got up there, but he said he didn't remember. The woman who lives in the home heard someone on the roof in the middle of the night. She said that he was up there for at least 5 hours, in nothing but his underwear. Eventually, the police and firefighters showed up and used a ladder to help the guy down from the roof. It was speculated that he had celebrated a little bit too hard the night before. Once he got down, the man apologized and left quickly. The woman said although it was odd, she was glad that the man was okay. She later had someone come over to check the roof to see if there wasn't any damage. And that's your Florida Man news. Thank you for joining me. This is your anchor Dallas, signing off.